My parents did an incredible job of helping me build healthy associations with money. It wasn't just about learning numbers, it was about understanding how balance and intentionality shaped our financial lives. Those early lessons set me up for success and helped me navigate the real world with more confidence when it came to money. And it's a big reason why I'm so excited to share today's sponsor with you, Acorns Early. Acorns Early is a smart money app and a debit card for kids that helps them learn the value of money. Kids can spend what they earn with their very own debit card. They'll love the new sense of independence and getting to choose from 35 plus customizable card designs. Plus, parents can keep track of where and when their kids are spending. You can get real-time spend notifications, set your kids' spending limits, and instantly block lost or stolen cards. They might not realize it now, but starting to invest early is going to have a huge impact on their financial future. And the best part? It's simple. And Acorns Early is such a smart, accessible tool to do that. If you're looking for a way to make a real difference in the financial future of the younger people in your life, Acorns Early is an amazing place to start. Ready to help your kids learn the value of money? Just head to acornsearly.com/diaries or download the Acorns Early app to get started. Sign up now and your first month is on us. T&Cs apply. Monthly subscription fee starting from $5 per month unless canceled.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Welcome back to the Murder Diaries. I'm Paige. As always, if you would like to listen to this episode ad-free, you can do so on patreon.com/the Murder Diaries pod. Our guest today, you might recognize from Escaping Polygamy, a docuseries that ran from 2014 to 2019 and showcased the work of three sisters who left the Kingston clan, a secretive polygamous group based in Salt Lake City, Utah, known as the Order. In the docuseries, they help both loved ones and strangers break free from polygamy. This show captivated me. I was so inspired by the work of our guests and those that were brave enough to leave the Order while filming it. Welcome, Amanda Rae.
Hi.
So like I mentioned, Escaping Polygamy did kind of primarily focus on three sisters, but you were also, let's call it, a star of the show. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got involved in the show Escaping Polygamy?
Yeah, honestly, it was so many things happened so fast in that time of my life. Like I had tried to escape the Order multiple times, got sent back home, and then finally escaped pretty traumatically July 25th of 2013, got married that next May. So I was only 18 years old, and then producers were contacting me. Producers were contacting me while I was engaged because they ended up, I don't know if you watched the episode where they filmed my wedding.
Sure did.
So I had not even been out for like 6 months before they started to contact me. And I think what happened was at the time, it was actually really hard to get people to talk publicly about the Order for multiple reasons. Like, first of all, it's very traumatic, right? A lot of people are trying to process it. So it was kind of like there was really just a small handful of people that were willing to talk about it publicly. And even Chanel from the show, I did a little interview on Cults of Consciousness with Chanel, Jessica, and Andrea. And it was actually my first time hearing them say they wanted someone to talk about it. They just didn't want to be the ones to talk about it. So even they were like having a hard time being on the show, which is different for me. I was like, as soon as I was out of there, I was like, I want to burn this place to the ground after everything that I had witnessed, not only for me, but for all the women there, for all of the struggling children that are not getting the help that they needed. Mm-hmm. So I guess word got out because I was such a feisty one at the time. This is like 10 years ago, right? Producers were told through word of mouth to contact me. And so they contacted me. I was only 18 years old. And I remember sitting down with one of the producers and kind of just sharing all of my experiences. And they're like, okay, well, then let's get you on contract, basically.
And were you connected to Chanel and her sisters before the show? Like, did you know them?
Yeah. So Chanel, she's the one I was closest to because she actually did marry my half brother. So she married into my family. She married her first cousin. And I think she talks about this on the show. So I remember her coming over to my house and we would my sister and I would be doing her hair for one of the dances or a reception. And so I did get kind of close to her. And then I remember feeling like, what's going on when the whole divorce was happening? Everyone was kind of blaming Chanel and my brother was some kind of a hero. And I remember it not making sense. So I remember reaching out to Chanel and being like, hey, are you okay? And my mom this is such a random story, but my mom was harassing Chanel on the internet because when a divorce happens, a lot of the times they blame the woman, especially if the woman is trying to leave. And so it's usually easy to just blame the woman because they'll slut shame them. It's always the woman's fault, never the man's. And especially if the man's choosing to stay, which a lot of times the man does choose to stay because they benefit more from the order than a woman does, right? Mm-hmm. So she got her name was ran through the mud. She was very tainted and my mom was harassing her on Facebook. I think Chanel was trying to share her side and my mom was trying to silence her. And then Chanel blocked her. And then my mom was like, Amanda, give me the password to your Facebook. My mom starts harassing Chanel through my Facebook. So I contact Chanel, I think I had a secret phone at the time, or I had my mom's phone and was deleting the text from my mom's phone. I can't remember how I did it, but I contacted Chanel and I was like, hey, my mom is trying to harass you through my Facebook. Please know that I don't condone this. I support you. I believe you. I know that nobody believes you right now, but I believe you. And she was like, no, it's all good. So this all happened before the show. Before I left, I was still in. She was on her way out. And then I never got to hear her full side of the story till I left. I was having to sift through all of these lies that were being told about her. And there were so many. And it was honestly, in hindsight, I'm glad it happened because it made me, I'm not glad it happened to her, right? That's terrible. But for me to witness it because it made me prepared for what was about to happen to me when I was going to leave,
Absolutely. And what's great about that situation is that she would have completely understood the kind of boundaries, if you will, that you were under and the situation of how families were run. And she would really understand where all this was coming from.
Right. I think it was really hard for her, for sure.
And this is a perfect point to sort of talk about what the order is for anybody who hasn't heard of the order.
Yeah, I can give you the short version because I could go on all day about order history.
It's interesting that you term it that way because it really is such a deep history. It's a cult, right? But it's an offshoot of FLDS and fundamental Mormonism. So that gives people a little bit of a taste of how deep this history can go. But tell us a little bit from your experience or somebody in there, what is the order?
The order started in 1935, but it didn't originally start as a religion. But the leader, he was kicked out of the LDS church because he was still practicing polygamy. So all these polygamists in Utah, there's, I think, over 40,000 now, and they all believe in Joseph Smith. And they all believe that the LDS church, well, at least from what I've heard and what I grew up learning about the history of the order and FLDS and the AUB and all these other polygamous groups, they all believed in the LDS church and Joseph Smith until the LDS church denounced polygamy, right? Because in order for Utah to become a state, they needed to denounce polygamy. So all these polygamists think that LDS is now worldly and we're the ones that are truly, the ones of God. And this is what honestly made me start to believe that the order was flawed, because we believed that the order was a true kingdom of God upon the earth and there's no other church that's God's chosen people. Yet the FLDS believe in a lot of the same things and they believe that they're the true ones. So we would have this weird rivalry with them. Same with the AUB, the group that Cody Brown's family's from. We would have a rivalry with all of them, even though we were kind of family with all of them. We would support each other, but be like, hey, so they're actually not the true church though. So don't be, I describe it as high school rivalry. That's how it felt. Like, no, we're the true ones, you know? So when I got older and I started actually meeting people from the FLDS and from other polygamous groups, I was like, you guys sound a lot like us, but we're the ones that are chosen and you're not. But then it's like that Spider-Man meme, you know, where everyone's looking at each other like, wait a minute.
That makes complete sense. And I could see where that could be confusing because you've got several, as you mentioned, like-minded groups such as the AUB. And you're thinking, how am I supposed to be thinking that we are the true group of God when these people believe things that might be very similar and practice in similar ways with very small changes?
Right. And being a member, so like for me, for example, it was so earth-shattering to realize, oh my gosh, so we're not the true church. So all of this stuff may be a lie. As a member, your whole like personality is in this group. But I do think that as a leader, they want you to maybe like see other churches, but know that we're the true one because they don't want you to wander off. That's money. That's free labor. That like one person leaving is a asset loss, right? So to me, I think they look at it that way.
All right, because the order controls like at least 100 businesses in the area, right? In Utah?
Yeah, there's so many. If you look up, they don't have all of them publicly, but if you look up on Wikipedia, the order businesses or Kingston clan businesses, there's a lot. There's the let's see, True Value on Redwood Road. A lot of them on Redwood Road. John's Marketplace is the grocery store that they would go to, and only order members are allowed to run a lot of these. So I remember I worked at John's Marketplace as a cashier, and we were trained on what to do if someone comes in for a job application and they're an outsider. So we were not allowed to hire outsiders.
What was that training like? Like, what did they tell you to do?
So it was like, and for some reason, we got a lot of people coming in to apply, and maybe it was just the location, but I was told to tell them either we were full, we're not hiring at the time, but to come back later. I think there were a few times where I was like, oh yeah, I'll just pass it on to the manager, but we just threw it away. Like we were never going to be hiring. And there was also, I've talked about this before on my TikTok, actually. This is similar to the topic. So in the group, they have their own bank. And so when I was working at the John's Marketplace, I was the cashier. And when you have your own bank in this cult, they don't have cards, they don't have cash, they just have a card number. So my card number was 60351A. So I would get all of my food, right? I'd go to the front and I'd be like, hey, can you charge this to 60351A? They type it into the computer, find my card number, and then it goes to my bank account, right? So what happens when you're a cashier and someone from the order is charging their stuff, but then there's an outsider behind them watching you do that? They also trained me on what to say when that happens, because it would happen multiple times where an outsider is like, well, where's my account? Like, how do I get this magical account where I can just tell you a number and it goes to this, certain charge? So they told me to tell the outsider. So actually, it was a limited time offer. We only did it during Christmas time. And so unfortunately, no one can be having this card number offer anymore.
That's a really great example of how with the order, it wasn't so much a cult or high demand religion that was interested in bringing a bunch of people in. You were born into it. So the idea behind it was women having babies and marriage.
Oh, yeah. So definitely the core belief systems are, well, yes, they have their own bank, right? So all of your incomings and outgoings are in the name of the Lord. So you should be spending your money at the order-owned businesses as well. But from birth, especially as a woman, I remember as young as first grade being taught to pray and have direction from God on who my number one choice is to marry. So as a woman, you really are treated like kind of like livestock, right? Like, hurry, get him married, get him pregnant, get him having babies as fast as possible. You saw a lot of women getting shamed for taking too many breaks in between kids. They were not expected to heal. Like it was kind of, I remember my mom getting shamed for, and this is the thing, a lot of the times the women are having complication. A lot of the times the women are maybe going through postpartum. They don't care about any of that those words don't really exist there. It's like, just bring as many souls from heaven to the earth. They kind of act like you have this contract and you need to bring them down here. And if you don't marry the right one, so let's say you marry an outsider and marry, God forbid, you marry someone who's not white, then you're going to have the wrong kids and the wrong which never made sense to me. Honestly, even in the order, I was like, so where are these kids coming from? If I marry the wrong one, are they coming from hell? Like, I don't understand. But yeah, they really, really stress that you marry the right one and have the right babies. As a woman, that's like your number one goal. And a lot of times your number one choice is a man who already had 5 wives, who already has like 100 kids. And you're supposed to save yourself for that, right? Like I was taught in Sunday school that basically my virginity and me, my purity, you have this present for your husband, for your future husband. And every time you hold hands with a boy or kiss a boy, you're tearing that present. And then by your wedding day, if you've been doing all that stuff, then you have no present to give him. And I remember thinking, so what if I marry as a 5th wife? Where's my present? There's nothing for me.
That idea of the torn present, oftentimes you'll find it depicted with like a Snickers bar. And someone from the ABU, who's also in a reality show, and you mentioned their husband earlier, did this for all the kids with the Snickers bar. And that's one of the first places I saw it, but it is used. And they will break off pieces and give it to people and then show how there's nothing left. And then obviously, right, like chocolate melts and it kind of gets everywhere. But when you really break it down, it's just showing it as damaged goods when that's not really what happens. I mean, emotionally, you can go through things when you give your purity to people, but that's on them and how they treat you, not the fact of the physical act of doing it, in my opinion.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Uh-oh, the last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Spring is here, and you can now get almost anything you need for your sunny days delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get a chicken parmesan delivered. A cabana? That's a no. But a banana? That's a yes. A nice tan? Sorry, nope. But a box fan? Happily, yes. A day of sunshine? No. A box of fine wines? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile, with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
And in these religions, everything has to be so black and white. Mm-hmm. Like there's always analogies. And as a kid, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. But when you think about it and you use your critical thinking, you're like, oh, so you're comparing me to a object. You are objectifying me.
Mm-hmm. and infantilizing. Right.
And I totally agree with what you're saying, like giving your purity to someone. If it's the wrong person, if it feels like it was, it's someone taking advantage of someone, or maybe there's multiple scenarios where you can feel like you were just giving a piece of yourself and you regret that. But that's not the same thing as what they use in these polygamous cults to be like, save yourself for the one that God chooses for you, which in reality is the leadership choosing for you. So they create this distrust in self right? Because you're sitting here like, oh, I can't trust myself. I have to trust the one above me, which is something they told us in the order. Follow the one above another. The law of one above another is a huge principle in the order, which means basically, yes, you can pray and have your direction from God. Yes, you can pray and have a connection with him, but you need to ask the one above you to make sure that what you're seeing is actually true. So then it creates this huge distrust in yourself, right? Especially like when they use all these analogies of like, save yourself for marriage, like everything is the same path for every single person. We're all just robots. We can't trust ourselves because we can't be trusted. That's how it feels. Then it creates a lot of people who, including myself, had a really hard time when I finally was able to get out of the cult and get to know who I am. I had a really hard time with decisions, with choices, with who I was. I didn't even know myself because I wasn't allowed to explore those areas because it was like, you're not trusted to explore them. Let us take the rails for you your whole life. And in a weird way, some members have said that they find comfort in that. So this haunts me. This girl who's actually my age, she told me that it was kind of a relief to have someone else do all of the work and here's who you're going to marry, here's your job that you're going to work at, here's da. And if they just followed the one above another, their salvation was kind of guaranteed. Whereas if they make their decisions on their own, then there's all of this shame and guilt and failure. So they explained it in a way of like, the thing I miss about the order was that I had my fate basically lined up for me, which is so twisted because for me, I'm like, well, I wanted to leave for that very reason because I couldn't do anything on my own. But there is once you have been so brainwashed and ingrained in that and you don't know who you are, the work of getting to know yourself and finding that self-awareness is so much work because they repressed it for so long. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense because truly it's a sense of false security.
Yeah.
Number one. And sure, it is easier just in plain black and white. It is a little bit easier. Great. Somebody else is making decisions for me. And I feel safe with those people because they've been around me my whole life. When in reality, you're missing an entire developmental period of when you are a teenager of where you are finding identity. Like that's straight up like Erikson developmental theory. That's the period where if you come out of it properly developed, if that could be the right word, you come out with a sense of identity and who you are. And the core process through this is actually peer pressure. Both good and bad come from peer pressure, but that's how you find out about who you are. So I could see where that being stifled by people making decisions for you could make it easier, and then you wouldn't know what to do or have to really work on that and develop that at a later stage when making it out.
And it becomes harder to develop because you're also like after leaving, you're kind of, for me, I'm at this phase of my life where I should know these normal things that everyone else got to get to know about themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a game of catch up in a weird way.
Yep.
At least in that aspect. There's other areas where I do feel like I got more experience than the average person by my age. Like by 18, I had like 12 different job experiences. But yeah, definitely, I think that coming from the cult mentality, there is a lot of people, and maybe this actually relates to human development and just the world. We do like to gravitate towards what's comfortable. And even if the comfortable is not good for us. And I think that's why a lot of people stay in these cults, because it's the known is less scary than the unknown, even though the known is abusing you, you know?
Exactly. I feel like Chanel's mom said something like that in the first episode because it stuck with me. She seemed so sweet, but it's true. She's explaining like, this is all I've known. So yeah, this is a big deal. It's overwhelming. I don't know what to do. And if you never got to find a sense of identity, you don't know where you would want to go in life. You don't know what you would want to do in life when you got out. That would take so much time to develop, or you would have to have been secretly rebelling for so long, which I can't imagine how difficult that would be in, for example, the order. I mean, you have how many numbered men? And they're,
I know. Did we talk about numbered men?
Not yet. And I think that would be a great piece to discuss.
The very first, creator of the order was number one. And it was originally just he was numbering each member as they joined. And then it evolved into the leader now kind of like dangles the number as if it's your position and ticket to heaven to see what the men will do to achieve their number. But I think that the term the order actually comes from a Bible verse talking about united order actually in the Bible, because the AUB, I think also has something called the Order. And then the FLDS also has a higher up group called the United Order, or it could be their splinter off, the Centennial group. They all like the term the Order. And it's I wish that I could have brought the verse to you that they reference, but it talks about how United Order. And it kind of is basically saying, it's very culty, the verse, but it's saying like to keep a community and to keep the order of the community for God. And I think that also ties in for the Order. Consecration. A big thing is everybody in the Order needs to have united order and consecration, meaning that everything that you own is the Lord's. And that's what one of the biggest staples of the Order.
Can we talk a little bit about how these men achieve or earn a numbered status?
Yeah. So with that, I want to preface the history of the Order because New Age, everyone that's younger generation, the number system is way different than back in the days. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning of the Order, Brother Eldon was, we talk about number 1, and then he numbered down basically whoever joined. And he even said like anyone can join. It doesn't matter what religion you are. So there were multiple different religions joining because the Order was more of a co-op, right? It was in the Great Depression. They were kind of just trying to survive together. But Eldon was a polygamist who, like I said, came from the LDS church. As soon as Eldon died, which he died very young in his 30s, he had multiple wives. And then he passed on the next leader was my grandpa Ortel, who's number 8. And he only gave, I believe, 4 numbers out. He didn't understand the numbering system. He didn't really value it. He was like, whatever. He starts marrying his nieces, his sisters. He starts bringing in incest. Incest starts happening very fast. Like Eldon had this standard of like, don't marry anyone under 18. Let's not be marrying our sisters. And then for some reason, I think Ortel's his half-brother, full brother. I should know this, but Ortel comes in here and he's like, now I'm going to be marrying nieces and I'm going to be marrying my sisters and you guys are just going to have to like it. And then he doesn't really deal with the numbers. He only gives out like 4. And then when he passes away, Brother Paul, who's the leader now, he's number 9. They saved number 9 for him because I guess they knew he was going to be the leader. And he's been like, from what it looks like, because I'm not there in the men's meetings because I'm a woman, right? But from what it looked like as a member was he was giving the numbers to his closest brothers, because my dad got number 36 at a very young age. And his brother David, who went to prison, got number 33. So they're kind of like the numbers of the age are in the same, like 33, 36. My dad's like close in age with his brother David. So from what I'm researching, right, from what I'm noticing is that the numbers were given to the close Kingstons. And then the lesser Kingston bloodline, because they're really big on their bloodline. The Kingston bloodline is like direct descendant of Jesus Christ, which is, we could get into a whole thing on racism there too. But they're giving the numbers out. And then what I think started happening is Paul started to realize how badly people wanted numbers and realized that he could use it as leverage, right? So there becomes these members who just want a number so bad. And Paul's like, hey, we really need someone to go move to Idaho to go work for Standard for $10 an hour and be a manager. Can you do it? And then they're like, yes, I'll do anything for this number, right? They keep having these meetings to try to apply for their number status because I really think, and I don't know where this comes from, but the members really believe that having that number is going to bring them to heaven. There's multiple times, I think every numbered man that I've seen pass away on their gravestone, their number is cemented in the gravestone. And then the wives, so for example, my mom is the second wife of 3. My dad's number 36, okay? So like, let's say they were to pass away and this is probably what's going to happen on my dad's gravestone will be 36. The first wife, who's my mom's sister, if she passes away, they'll bury her next to him. It'll be 36.1 because she was the first wife. My mom would be 36.2. And this has happened previously. Like my grandpa Ortel, he's number 8. My grandma Isabel was number 10. And so on her gravestone was 8-10. And it's like they cemented in there. They are so proud of that number because it really, they believe, is their ticket to heaven. They're being numbered as the tickets to heaven. And I think it even dates to the Bible verse. Have you ever heard of the Bible verse where God will walk with 144,000? There's a number of, I don't know if a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses believe in it, but some people think that only 144,000 are going to make it into heaven.
It's incredible to hear you explain it because what an explanation it takes, right?
I know. It's like one of your questions is like, okay, let me get out my paragraphs.
That's how deep and ingrained these cults become. And we're talking an entire community. We're talking families built from families and religion. And those things are so deeply ingrained in who people become and who they are.
Yeah. And a lot of the younger generation too, even including me when I was in the order, I didn't really know how deep it all went.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't know, all I knew was, from my young age, what I was taught and the order history that I was allowed to know. But then after I left and I talked to a lot of older people who had left, they're like, oh yeah, this was so different back in the day. And they actually taught things that were opposite than what they're teaching now. And it's really just, I think, depends on the leader and what the leader wants. And I genuinely would be surprised if the leader right now even believes that he's doing God's work. I think that he is basing every decision in his life off of how can I benefit.
I was just going to ask you that. And I actually thought about it earlier when you were saying something too, of the people that are super high up. Do they truly believe this? Or is it about control, especially control of women and benefiting off the labor of women and the way the order is set up off the labor of people that are working for not much at, for example, the grocery stores? How much did you make when you were working at that grocery store? Do you remember?
To be honest, I think that a lot of people didn't make anything because they didn't pay us a paycheck. They would just say, yeah, you're getting paid. And then they made the statements really confusing to understand. So I think most of my life I was working for free. But they would say, and I talked to members who said, yeah, I found out that I wasn't getting paid at all for 3 months worth of work. And when they went and talked to the leader or the leader's brother about it, they were told that, oh, well, just consider it working for the Lord. That's you're working for the kingdom of God. And you're supposed to be grateful that you could actually have that position.
Mind blowing.
Right. And what pissed me off, sorry, this part gets me heated. Well, all of this gets me heated, but this part specifically, because I've talked to people recently who were like, I'm so lucky that I got a raise and I'm getting paid an extra $1 an hour for all of my overtime. And I was like, legally, overtime is not an extra $1 an hour. You are being scammed right now. But they are positioned. They word it in a way where, and also no order members know what it's like to have an actual legal paying job.
Mm-hmm.
So they're being gaslit into thinking that this is a healthy wage, and you're so lucky to be getting paid this. Mind you, people that are working in the same place, like Standard Restaurant, for example, they ended up hiring a lot of people on the outside because there was so much work to do, and the outsiders were getting paid more than the Lord's people. So isn't that interesting? They're treating their own family worse than strangers.
Oh, that is really twisted.
Yep.
I didn't realize that. I do remember, or what's bubbling in my mind now is an episode where whoever it was that was attempting to escape wanted to get their money out of the bank. And I don't even remember if it happened, but I don't even know if they got access. I can't remember. But when you mentioned the statements, it sparked because I remember they were like, they don't even know how much money they actually even had because you just couldn't read the statement or understand it. And so I don't know if that person got to leave with money or not. And maybe that's part of the point, right? Of not only I don't want you to realize that, you're basically working for free, but the money that is in the pot of the cult is what's keeping you alive, and your numbered guy is bringing you, potatoes every week or whatever.
Right.
They're not realizing. I remember that so much. I'll never, ever forget one of the people talking about the potatoes and just how potatoes were like a staple.
So funny that's there's so much to talk about in this context. But yes, there's definitely a lot of people who leave with nothing. And they, when they're calling to ask for a statement or any proof, and they're like, oh, you actually owe us money. Right. But then also the potatoes thing, I have to talk about that topic because it's so funny.
Please.
So people were so triggered by that, including me, right? Because for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, on Escaping Polygamy, Daniel Kingston, he's Paul, the leader's brother, and he has multiple wives. One of his wives ended up having to go public and her kids were getting put into foster care. Those kids were Jessica and Andrea, right? We know them on the show. And so his wife was going to court trying to fight for her kids. And he was trying to claim that he was a good father and that his kids weren't abused. Could not remember all of his kids' names. Couldn't even remember how many kids he had with Heidi, which is Andrea and Jessica's mom. And then when he was asked what he does for the family, he said that he's a great dad. He gives a box of potatoes to the family once a month. He makes sure that he gets that box. Like he was patting himself on the back for that. If that doesn't show you the context of how these men think that they take care of their families, but the kids are all on food stamps, right? The kids are all working for the dad to profit. And it's such a twisted world in the order because they really do gaslight us to believe that there is no abuse. If you don't define it as abuse, then it's not abuse. That's how they look at it. You're lucky to be getting that box of potatoes. And they would compare, like, there's people out in the world that just have real deadbeat dads. And at least we do da-da-da-da. But it's like, here you are having multiple wives, a bunch of kids. One of the number one questions is, how do these men afford all these women? They don't. My birth certificate has a fake name. Kyle Grant is on my birth certificate. Don't even know a Kyle Grant. So that my mom will, I think, so that they don't get prosecuted for living polygamy, but also so that my mom can get food stamps, right? There's so much food stamp fraud going on because these women look like single mothers with 10 plus kids, right? And then the tax breaks too. So the order is definitely like the mafia, right, of polygamists. Like, they do the incest, they do the tax fraud, have you heard of Jacob Kingston going to prison for the biodiesel fraud?
No.
This is another one. I heard, this is allegedly, because I never met the person that was doing it, but I heard from multiple people from the order that they have someone specifically paid in the order to look at as many loopholes as they can in the system of the taxes, like for home owning, for any way that they can bleed the beast, then they will. So they, I guess, have a lot of people that are really good at tax fraud and like how to get free money from the government. So that's why Jacob Kingston was able to, when he was doing his biodiesel company, he was apparently, for every gallon of biodiesel, you get $1 in taxes because it's like good for the environment, right? So he was diluting his gas, trying to sell it. He was already from the get-go trying to see how he can cut corners, right? Got far enough into his scheme to where he stole $500 million from the government. And he was fleeing to Turkey. He was on his way to Turkey when he got arrested, and he's serving a prison sentence now. His mom, who actually just recently passed away because she helped him forge documents, his first wife and his younger brother all got sentenced. But that's just one time that they got caught when they've been doing this since day one, you know?
When Paige and I started the Murder Diaries, it seemed like we had to figure it all out on our own. Scripts, setup, recording schedule, logos. It was super overwhelming, and every day seemed to introduce a new decision that needed an answer now. Finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Skims and Rhode to brands just getting started. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand's style. You can accelerate your content creation because Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/murderdiaries. Go to shopify.com/murderdiaries. That's shopify.com/murderdiaries.
This episode is brought to you by the Nissan Armada Pro 4X. With a twin-turbo V6 engine ready to propel your adventures up to 8,500 pounds of towing capacity to haul all your favorite toys and space for 8 passengers, Nissan's most powerful car yet will chew up and spit out anything you throw at it. Learn more about the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada at nissanusa.com. Towing capacity varies by configuration. See Nissan Towing Guide and Owner's Manual for additional information. Always secure cargo.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. The NBA playoffs are here, and MacLeod Ultra is getting you closer to the game than ever with courtside seats and more. Enter now at MacLeodUltra.com/courtside. MacLeod Ultra Superior Access Courtside 2024 to 2025 sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Ends on July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MacLeodUltra.com/superior access/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
This episode is brought to you by GMC. When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the GMC Certified Service Fresh Start Tire Event. Visit gmc.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only, highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends 5/31/2025. Not available with other offers.
That story, as well as the potatoes and Daniel really just praising himself for that, really shows that we have a mix, I think, of men who are committing some atrocities towards their families, but also it paints this clear picture of how the boys in the order are being raised, right? Like, yeah, that's okay. Do the bare minimum, and you're doing great, sweetie. And you could do really whatever you want. You can have as many wives as you want, as many children as you could possibly have. And you don't even have to live with the wives. You're just going to make your rounds. I feel like a lot of people don't realize that, by the way, too. With polygamy, it's not always like FLDS style where they're wearing clothing that's a little bit more like 19th century style and maybe multiple wives living in one house, or they're appearing very normal out in the world and are living, like you mentioned, they kind of live almost like a single mom or single wife, like anybody that could clap eyes on the situation, whether it's CPS or whatever. You're going, oh, okay, like they live on their own there. Like there's nothing to really indicate it unless you really have to dig and dig. But yes, I digressed a little bit, but it really just shows this picture that men are told they can do whatever they want, and that's okay. Yeah. He's doing what he wants, and then he's going to just flee to Turkey and get away with it.
Right. Well, I think it's in probably all of these polygamous cults in Utah, we're seeing what happens when a man goes unchecked, right? When a man goes with no accountability for too long, then it's going to be a disaster. And what happens is these cults they almost want they want something to believe in, and so this man's like, me, I'll be it, and then when you were saying how you were asking, do you think that they really believe in this, or do you think that they, and sometimes I go back and forth because the leaders, I do think that they're really narcissists. So I'm like, maybe they could be delusional enough to think that they are God's gift to the planet Earth. This is what happens when you create a system where the leader you're not allowed to hold them accountable. Because for me, whenever I was starting to question, wait a minute, the Bible says don't live incest, don't lay with your sister, but he's laying with his sisters, you guys. Then I'm the one that's shamed. I'm the one that's bad. No one can talk bad about the leader. So then the leader's never held accountable. So then the line and the boundaries are being pushed further and further, right? And that's why we saw David O. Kingston go to prison for R-wording his niece. He was prosecuted for it. And that was what was groundbreaking for a lot of people to finally start questioning, because it was interesting to see how much the leader and his brothers all said that he was innocent, that David O. Kingston was innocent when his niece was underage. And but the same thing happened, like how I was saying, how Chanel was treated like this terrible person. This little girl was slut-shamed, which is so insane that cult mentality, it's like herd mentality. Everyone just we want black and white. We want to point the finger and then be done with it,
I've heard a lot of uber religious men, multiple different denominations, primarily underneath the Christian umbrella, talk about the story of Adam and Eve to sort of make it okay to say that, women are temptresses and women can lead men down bad paths. And it's very interesting just because Eve took a bite of
apple,
the forbidden fruit or whatever. Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, I get it. It's not a beautiful picture in that story, but I guess what I'm trying to bring up is just like there's a story in the Bible, a very old text that men are still using today to control and disregard and insult women's intelligence.
Yeah. Have you heard of this? I don't know where it originated from, but I've heard multiple people say this saying of women created life. Us as women can create. We have the power to create life, to birth a human. And men got jealous, so they created God. Have you heard of this?
I have not, but that is very interesting.
Yeah, the first time I heard it, I laughed because I was like, that actually makes sense. And it only makes sense in my brain because I was raised around so many narcissistic men who could not fathom a woman being even equal to them, right? But if you think of how you were just saying, the men just want to blame the women. They'll say that the women are almost in control of the men's actions, right? Because if she's dressing immodestly, then the man's going to look, and it's the woman's fault that the man's actions. And I was just watching something today, actually, where it was like, it's so interesting that the men are the leaders, right? And they're leading the congregation, yet the women are controlling their wandering eyes. So shouldn't the women be in control? Because it sounds like they have all the power, right?
You did such a great job of giving us a lot of information of what the order is like, some of its foundations and histories. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in the order and when you realized you needed to get out? Kind of take us through that time in your life.
Yeah. So I think every person born in the order is going to be a, brainwashed lover of the leader for sure. But at some point for me, and I honestly, for a lot of years, I was like, why me? Why did I choose to leave? And I think that I very well could have stayed my whole life. I think that my reason for leaving was I was lucky enough to get exposure to the outside world, probably more than the average girl in the order. I was lucky enough to have an honest mom. My mom was kind of coerced into her marriage, and her older sister kind of helped groom my mom as a young girl into marrying my dad. My mom was only 17 when they were telling her things like, we had a dream that you were going to die by this time if you don't decide if you're going to marry him or not. So there was a lot of fear and guilt. And my mom was very honest about it. And she pointed out where there was injustices in the order. Like, for example, my dad's sister, who was a minor, they kind of really forced her to marry her half brother, and she died giving birth to their baby. And so my mom would talk about these things. Like, I think my mom was honestly very lonely there because they isolated her. They took her in, and as soon as she was married to her sister's husband, they were like, hey, now don't tell any of your family. Like, now you're an order member and you got to keep the order secrets. And so she became very isolated. It's like a narcissistic relationship, right? And so I saw my mom struggle with that. I also saw her struggle with my dad getting a new wife, and the new wife happening to be his own half sister. And she vocalized with me. She was like, I don't agree with that. And I think that, and my dad would shame her for that. And honestly, if they hear this, they're going to shame her for this as well. But the fact that she was able to be open and honest was eye-opening for me. But I think that she would have lost her mind if she couldn't have been open and honest with her kids, because she had no one really to confide in. And so I saw that. I saw my mom crying over the situation that she was in, and then going to Sunday school, and teachers are trying to groom me into the same fate of my mother, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, 2 and 2, I don't want to do that, And I remember listening to the teacher who, this memory, I don't know why it always comes up when this question is asked, but this teacher, she is my dad's sister. And she was telling me how there's no greater relationship than a polygamist one. And you will never find the love that you can get out in the world that you can in the order with your polygamous relationship. Mind you, this woman obviously hadn't had any other relationships other than her husband. She married him at a very young age, and she married her half brother, who was David O. Kingston, the one that we just talked about, who went to prison for R-wording his niece. On that topic, though, that is a big reason that caused me to question my membership, because I was talked to, I think I was like 15 or 16 at the time, and someone told me, they were like, hey, did you ever hear about Daniel beating Marianne? And I was like, what? No, what are you talking about? A numbered man beating it? No, that's not a thing. And they were like, ask your dad if Daniel beat Marianne. So I asked my dad, I was like, hey, so did Daniel beat Marianne? I just like said it like that. And he looked at me and was like, let's not talk about that. And instantly I knew. And I think my dad would have lied to me if he knew he could get away with it. But I started researching and it was all over the internet, right? That David O. Kingston went to prison for it, that Daniel took Marianne to go beat her in a shed in Washakie. So I'm unraveling all of this and I'm like, oh my gosh, so they just hid this. I'm just now finding out because someone, thank God, someone decided to grace me with this information. And now I have to think that my dad's probably hiding a lot more than I even thought. And at this point, I kind of lost respect for my dad because I found out that he was married to his half-sister, which, by the way, they didn't tell me for a while that he even got another wife. I just knew that, like, my mom was going through a hard time at the time. She had some miscarriages. I think it was one miscarriage, actually. I'm not 100% sure. I was very young. So my respect for my dad was like barely even, there was dwindling because, you know, you go from being a little kid, not knowing who your dad is, asking him, are you my dad? Because you see the first wife's kids calling him dad, but you're not allowed to call him dad. So you ask him and he says, no, I'm not your dad. So from day one, there was lies, right? And you're trying so hard to have that respect for them because they try to really praise the men there, right? There's a lot of lack of accountability on the men. And so my mom was constantly like, even though all of this is happening to my mom, she was constantly like, your father, we're so lucky to have your father and we're so grateful. And your father says he loves you and your father says happy birthday. When in my mind, I'm like, no, he doesn't. He doesn't remember my birthday. Like he has 30 plus kids. There's no way. So yeah, I think the cracks definitely were forming at 15. 15, I believe, was when I was like, I will be leaving. I just don't know how, but I'm going to get out of here. And it was mainly because of the thoughts because of all of these different things happening. But the fact that I knew if I stayed, I was going to have daughters and tell my daughters that they need to live polygamy. I couldn't do that. Like I was going to be like my mom, you know, I'm going to be like living a lie and then telling my kids, yeah, I hate this, but I guess we're in it now. You know what I mean? So I knew at 15 I was going to get out so in a weird way, my future kids that don't even exist saved me. And it's like a kind of cute story.
Wow. No, that is actually really beautiful. It was just you already kind of mothering these possible souls that may come into your life in the future. And it's, how do I want to raise them? And what beliefs do I want to raise them under? And I think a lot of us as women think about that just in the general world without being under a high demand religion or cult. So I actually think that's really beautiful. And to think of that already at 15. But I guess you had to be thinking since you were about 6,
right?
Who your top prospect was. Absolutely. Yeah. So the day that you knew you could leave. So we're 15 when we start to understand, okay, I want to leave. I don't know how yet. How long did it take before you were able to get out? You were like 17, 18?
17, yep. It was, so my birthday is August 31st and the day I left was July 25th of 2013. So I was almost 18 and I had been running away multiple times, had crossed state lines, had gotten into a lot of trouble because the police, you're not supposed to cross state lines if you're a minor. But yeah, that day it finally stuck because it was, I've told this story before. I'll kind of tell the quick version because it's kind of a long story. But basically I had a friend that he was trying to get money out of the order bank. And I think he had like $30,000, $40,000. And he was kind of freaking out because they weren't giving it to him. Long story short, I went in there it was such a weird idea, but he was like, well, you work there, because I worked at the bank at the time. You work there, they're not going to think anything of it if you go because they have to buzz you into the back of the bank. He's like, you could take pictures of the illegal minors working back there. Because they're so afraid of getting caught for that. There's been so many times where they would, if someone was coming, like an outsider was coming in to fix the copy machines, they would have all the kids hide, like go into a different room or a closet or something so that the outsiders don't know that there's illegal minors, like child labor laws being broken. So we all knew how scared they were of that. And so he was like, yeah, you could go in, take those pictures and then blackmail them with it, which is crazy because like, what was I going to do? Like go show the police. I didn't know what I was going to do with the pictures. It was mostly just to scare them into giving him his money. But when I was in there, they saw me taking the pictures. I thought I was being discreet, but I wasn't apparently. So yeah, long story short, my uncle, who is the leader's full brother. So my dad's half brother. he comes in from behind, like, and I remember I wasn't saying goodbye, but I was saying goodbye to my friend who I knew I was probably never going to see again. And it was the last time I ever saw her. I just wanted to go talk to her before I left because I was like, this is probably going to get ugly and I'm probably never going to see her and I'm going to miss her. So I went in just talking to her about her day casually. She had no idea it was going to be the last time. I kind of had an idea it was going to be the last time. And as I'm talking to her, I see her face looking behind me, like in fear. And I halfway turn and it was my uncle, right? The leader's brother from behind me starts. I don't remember exactly what happens. All I remember was the phone flew out of my hand. I was being pushed out of the door. I was just shaking. Adrenaline was running. And I ran over to my friend who I was supposed to be taking the pictures for, and it was his phone actually that flew out of my hand. And he starts bawling. He's like, you're bleeding, you're bleeding. And I touched my neck and I was bleeding from the neck. And so it was a very traumatic exit, right? And it also is a very good example of how quickly they were to slander my name too. So literally within an hour, they were changing the story, changing the narrative. So we called the police actually, and there happened to be a cop who had been going back to the station. This is such a crazy part of the story too. So the cop happened to be on the case of, so there is a baby that was beaten so badly that the baby had passed away. And this happened it's in my lifetime. Like it happened while I was really young. So the wrong person went to jail for it. The numbered man who was Paul's brother should have gone to jail for it. And there were witnesses, right? But the police officer that was on the case of that happened to be going back to the station as I was calling the police, and he pulled over and I told him the situation. He took pictures of my bleeding neck and he was like, take this as your silver lining and get out. The Kingstons are no good. I remember when seeing the baby, and I know that baby didn't fall, that the Kingstons said that the baby fell, but from the autopsy, the baby did not just fall. So this man was like, and I thank him because he gave me the advice that I needed at the time. He was like, take this as your silver lining, get out, don't ever look back. But the crazy part of this story is, so he's trying to go in and question the guy who attacked me. They're holding the door shut. He's hearing them shuffling. They're waiting for their lawyer. The order has a bunch of lawyers because they get into a lot of problems with the law. Like 30 minutes later, another cop shows up and he has me sit into the car with him. I'm 17 at the time. I still feel like that was weird that he had me sit into the car with him when I was a minor. Anyways, sits me in the car with him and he goes, you really don't want to press charges on this guy. Like it's a lot of paperwork and you're going to be going into court multiple times. And the worst he's going to get is a slap on the wrist and maybe some community service. Like he's really trying to talk me out of pressing charges on my uncle. And sadly, it kind of worked because I am a teenager from a cult. I don't know anything. I've been sheltered from the outside world. So this is my first experience really talking to cops, and it's a lot happening in one day. Come to find out he was kind of in cahoots with the Kingstons. But to get back to the whole the narration changing. So within like an hour, the whole order was saying, yeah, Amanda clawed herself in the throat. She was acting crazy. She was trying to take his money, like going berserk. And I'm like, well, first of all, it's funny how that's easier for you guys to believe than the fact that a numbered man would draw blood. You know, it's just easier for the cult mentality to believe that I'm the bad guy and get Amanda out of here than the leadership has fallen. And now I need to question my own beliefs. And I have to break down my belief system because that's too hard to do. It's like that Mark Twain quote that's it's easier to fool someone than to convince them that they've been fooled. There's kind of an ego death that happens.
Absolutely. Another piece that's very interesting to me about this is when they start to slander your name within an hour, it's almost like they knew, okay, the control is gone. She clearly, if it's not today, it's going to be another day. Amanda is pretty much no longer under our control. And a lot of times when this happens, you have that burst that they talk about when that kind of thought process is being broken. And that's kind of what this is too. It's like that last little bit of like control that they can put over you, but also they know like, okay, like who cares what we say about her because she's leaving. And that we're never going to get control of her to the point where we are going to have her remain here and be involved with families. So this extinction burst, if you will, of, I guess it's extinction burst to a certain point, but within your membership, where they have to now pay attention to the current members and try not to lose more that may discover anything from your story of that day and what happened. And also probably protecting the man that made you bleed, your own uncle. You know what I mean?
Right. And because it was the leader's brother. And so
Yeah.
of course the leader's going to protect him as well. And very quickly they were saying that there was footage that he never touched me. And I remember saying, because they were still texting like the friend that I helped with, who tried to help get his money out, tried but didn't succeed. They were still texting him saying that, oh, they have footage that he never touched her and she clawed herself in the throat. And I was like, well, why don't they show that footage to the police? Because he did have to serve anger management classes after that, because it was obvious that he was trying to lie. He wouldn't come out till the lawyer was there. They're very smart with that stuff because they've been in trouble with the law. And honestly, that's the only time they've ever been held accountable, was when the state finally comes in there. But it's still kind of disheartening, because when David O. Kingston went to prison, he was supposed to serve 10 years for what he did. And he got out in 4. And then he also promised in his like prison release, like, I will not have relations with my sisters anymore. Meanwhile, his sisters were getting pregnant while he was in the prison. They were figuring out how to get the sisters impregnated with his kids while he was in prison. Like, it's kind of frustrating. And part of me is like, Utah is just so like, we're years behind, I think. And I think there's a lot of corruption because there's so many people that are so deep into this here in Utah. There's a lot of history here, but it takes people speaking out. And like, I'm so glad that I was able to be a part of Escaping Polygamy, and I was able to meet such strong women. Like, Jessica has been my idol since day one. Like, I feel like I fangirl over her, even though she's like my family. But every time I'm with her, I feel like this, how do I even explain it? Like, because she's able to grow, and I can kind of see what 10 years in the future looks like for me, seeing how at peace she is with herself and her life, and the life that she's created for herself. It created a peace in me that, okay, one day I'll find that. Because for so long I was like, I don't know if I'll ever find my happiness, because this has kind of ruined my whole childhood, right? You can't get a second childhood.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was so grateful to be on the show and to be able to speak out with these women. And because of the show, like, even though there's some things I disagree with how the show was made, because I didn't get to control a lot of it, but I'm grateful for being a part of it, because I think that it also inspired a lot of other people to speak out, and it gave a voice to the voiceless. And we're starting to see a lot more people, making YouTube accounts, being on podcasts, sharing their stories. And with more voices, we have to see change.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier how close to when you left Escaping Polygamy began. I mean, they were talking to you around this time, the producers were. I can't imagine what sort of space in life you would have been at that time with such impactful work that you were doing. What was that experience like? I mean, you just got out yourself, and then you're helping other people get out. Is it like, I guess it's hard to frame the question, but I just can't imagine how that work would have impacted you at a time where you're healing yourself, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think that, like, in hindsight, I should have healed myself a little more before going on the show, because I was catching myself getting re-traumatized over and over again, because I was doing therapy on and off, but I didn't do the deep work, because also I didn't know what kind of work I needed to do, right? I'm just now in freedom and I don't know where to start. So yeah, being thrown into the show, which I'm, again, grateful that I got to be a part of it. I definitely would do it all over again, would change some things, definitely. But I think that going from escaping a cult, losing your whole family, losing everything you've ever known, to going on to reality TV was a huge, like, when I watch the show now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this poor little girl was like, it's so bittersweet, because if I had not been on the show, I don't think I would have been connected with Jessica, Andrea, and Shannon. And like, I also wasn't making a lot of money at the time. So they were paying for me to go get to be reunited with such strong women that were family. So I think having those strong women in my life at such a young age was such a blessing. But the whole like re-traumatizing myself, going back into order territory to kind of try to, it felt like, I finally got out of the burning fire and I'm, patting the fire off my body. And then I see someone who needs water and I'm running back in, right? And I'm still on fire a little bit. Like, I think that naturally each member will do that. Like if it's your sister, like if you think about it in your perspective, like someone you care about so much, even though your mental health is kind of like in a bad space, if they're in that fire, you're going to go back in. You're not even going to think twice. So that's kind of what it was like. We're just running back. We're getting calls that, oh, this person now needs help. Like, okay, let's go. It did get to a point where I was like, I think I need to fill my cup because my cup's always empty. And I think that was also partially because the way that we were raised, we're not taught to take care of ourselves. We're taught to be very selfless for the church. People say it creates very kind, generous souls, but it also creates, you kind of lose yourself. You lose your sanity in that sense. So I think that, if I could do it all over again, I would have definitely done a bunch of therapy first. I would have worked on myself. I would have put a lot of boundaries up because it would have caused me to not be so drained. And then I remember a lot of times I would sit in an interview room and I would be questioned for hours, which I'm disappointed in the producers. And I've talked about this with Jessica and Chanel publicly and Andrea on Cults to Consciousness. We are kind of displeased with how they were. And just because they were dealing with a lot of very traumatized souls who had just left, and then they saw it as a money opportunity, which I get. I totally get they got to make their checks, but they were seeing our easily manipulated brains, and they were definitely playing into that and making money off of it.
It wasn't the most trauma informed, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. And I would go home after my interviews with them and I would just like stare at a wall. And then there were times where they asked me to speak on things that I was so uncomfortable. And I did voice, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this. And then they would be upset that I didn't want to talk about it. And it was like the producers could constantly forget that this was my real life. And I wasn't the only one saying this. Like Jessica said the same thing, Andrea, Chanel, like this is our real life. We had to constantly be like, hey, you guys get to go home to New York, to California, wherever, and you can sleep good at night and get your paycheck. We have to go home and we're still in this reality, like that you're making us play out on TV. And so that's the disconnect that I think happened. And I think over time we are seeing better producers that are more trauma informed, like you were saying, and that offer therapy and things like that and understand what hard work it really is to go dive back into the trauma over and over and over again for and it's important work. Every person that I see sharing their stories of coming out of a cult, of deconstructing, it's such important work to put out there. But I also think it's so hard to do. And that's why we don't see a lot, especially in the beginning of like Escaping Polygamy was really the first one to get out there and kind of share the order stuff because it's really hard to do. There was a lot of people that were willing to share, but they didn't want to share publicly because of the repercussions of what could happen, right? So Escaping Polygamy is really just like let's throw this out there and see what happens.
As we wrap up our conversation here today, and thank you so much for everything you've shared, if someone listening to this is in a similar situation, maybe inside a group like the Order or in the Order itself, they're struggling to break free, what would you want to say to them?
I love this question. I think it's what I would say to myself, my younger self, is there's a reason why you have questions. There's a reason why you're questioning things. There's a reason why this doesn't feel right to your soul or your gut or whatever you want to call it, your intuition. And I think it's healthy to have that trust in yourself. Don't disregard these feelings that you're having. Ask yourself why you're having them and trust yourself that you're going to know what's best for you. Trust yourself over anyone else.
That's beautiful. That really encourages them to create that sense of safety and trust within themselves first and foremost. Mm-hmm. I really love that.
It's so hard though. It's so much easier said than done.
Absolutely. Even outside of the Order, if you will, or any kind of cult.
Mm-hmm.
As we end the conversation today, do you want to let our listeners know where they can find you on Instagram or any of your socials?
Yes, I do have a YouTube. It's Amanda Rae. And then my Instagram's Amanda Rae Grant. I also have a TikTok. They're usually all linked around. If you look up Amanda Rae, you should be able to find it. But yeah, this has been really fun to be a part of. It was so nice to meet you too.
You as well. Thank you again for being here today and sharing everything.
Thank you.
Make sure to follow us on all of our socials. And remember, if you want to listen ad-free, head over to patreon.com/themurderdiariespod. And until then,
Stay safe.
bye.
The search for truth never ends. Introducing June's Journey, a hidden object mobile game with a captivating story. Connect with friends, explore the roaring 20s, and enjoy thrilling activities and challenges while supporting environmental causes. After 7 years, the adventure continues with our immersive travels feature. Explore distant cultures and engage in exciting experiences. There's always something new to discover. Are you ready? Download June's Journey now on Android or iOS.